thing. I'm not totally against all retouching in the media. I realise that magazines, advertising campaigns and all that, they want to look the best that they possibly can in order to entice customers into buying their products. Now, and the way to look their best is through retouching, because of the simple fact that no one is perfect, and there will always be flaws that people want to see and fix up. And that's actually okay by me. I mean, to others, they may be against it, and that's okay too. But for me personally, a little bit of retouching is okay when it's done right. However, what I am against is when retouching is done to the extremes. Take, for example, the photoshopping controversies that Ralph Lauren was involved in back in 2009. You may recall the extremely disproportionate bodies that were featured in several Ralph Lauren advertising campaigns. The first image had model Philippa Hamilton up there, being photoshopped to some extremes that, as you can see, her head appears to be larger than her waist. Now, and this is her head, right? And it's larger than her waist, which is totally not normal and believable. Now, one blog criticised the ad severely, saying that Hamilton has been featured in several ads for Ralph Lauren since her teens. Up till now, the brand has never photoshopped her to the likeness of a Bratz doll. Now, 1 week later, the second image, which is here, appeared in a shop in Sydney. Basically, her head, is the same width as her waist. Also, her hand is pretty much the same size as her thigh, and like her hips are pretty much been photoshopped into oblivion. Now, because all of this is totally realistic, right? Now, the main issue with this is how the people that made and approved of this ad thought that they were absolutely fine. They thought, oh, this kind of body is totally attainable for women, and this is a totally realistic ad that will make people want to buy our stuff. No, they were so wrong, and yet they didn't realize it, and no one did. No one in the brand seems to say, hey, this isn't the image we want, this is crazy and unattainable, and we don't want this in our ad because it's not real. How out of touch were they of reality to think that, this kind of image is okay, this outrages me because they sent the message that the way humans look are not good enough for humans. They're saying that models, I tell you, who are pretty much the epitome of body perfection, are not good enough. They have to, shave off inches of their waist and thighs and hips until they do. What does that leave, us the general public, us mere mortals with? Now, this is not an isolated incident. Anne Taylor, which is here, and Victoria's Secret have also been found to retouch photographs so much that the models have unrealistic proportions. Now, Ralph Lauren is just one example of how airbrushing is done to the extreme these days. They alter our perception of reality. There's nothing getting wrong with getting rid of a few pimples or smoothing out the hair a little or changing the lighting of a photo so we can display the person in the best light. But, because these things are, temporary, they aren't always there. The conditions that the photograph was taken in or what the person looked like that day may not be, how they were when they looked their best. So Photoshop and airbrushing is okay in that regard when you're putting the subject in the best light possible. But when magazines and advertising campaigns decide to change, the skin color, the size of their waist, the proportions of the face of a person, when they alter the person so they don't even resemble themselves anymore, that's when Photoshop goes wrong. We look a certain way. We can try to, improve ourselves through grooming or makeup or whatever, but in the end, we generally look how, we were meant to be. But when airbrushing goes wrong, this doesn't happen. People don't look like themselves. They morph into alternate, so-called ideal images of themselves, which are just unrealistic and just plain awful. It's telling them that they didn't look good enough, so they had to be airbrushed until they did. And the thing is, even if we are able to laugh these incidents off and criticize the media for doing such things, it remains that on a subconscious level at least, our self-esteem is crumbling away. Because even though that we know that those kind of images that showed above are unattainable, we acknowledge the fact that the media purports this twisted idea of what beauty is. I am an impressionable teenager growing up in today's society. Over 1.3 billion people in today's society are between the ages of 10 and 19. And that's a whole lot of people growing up believing that beauty is the only form of beauty is to be thin. Now, and that they also believe that this beauty may be unachievable, but they can die trying, which is actually what's happening with eating disorders and all that. And you know, as a teenager, I just want to say that that's not okay. That's not how I want the world to be. I want the world to be able to accept who everyone is, regardless of their size or how they look. You know, and not Photoshop the crazy out of people who honestly do not need any retouching. Let's promote humans looking like humans.